So welcome everybody. It's great to see such an amazing big crowd here this afternoon. We're in for a real treat. We have an absolutely wonderful and very eminent speaker with us here in Dr. Serge Gauthier. We also have a consultation plan for everyone. So the purpose of this afternoon is to get you together. Montreal-Ouest is an age-friendly town. We try to do policies, whether it relates to our leisure activities, our security, whatever, that is geared towards all members of the society, but also especially towards our seniors. And so we put forth a plan with many ambitious steps. And so it's our time now to look at it, to see how we've come in it, and to ask your priorities for us moving forward. So it's very important. The afternoon will be divided into two sections, really. We'll start off with our speaker, and then we'll have a little break. And then I ask all of you, please, to come back, as all the seniors who are here, to come back and help us go through our plan and help us make it even better and make Montreal-Ouest even a more senior-friendly town for all of us to live in. So, so that's basically how it's going to unfold. We'll have probably about an hour of each. Dr. Gauthier will be doing his speech in English, but he will certainly answer any questions in French, and the same goes for the whole rest of the afternoon. That's it, I guess. Danny, you want to go ahead?
So, je vais faire une petite traduction en français. Merci beaucoup d'être venu à la séance de planification cet après-midi. On est très content de vous voir très nombreux. Colleen, elle est conseillère municipale de la ville de Montréal-Ouest. Elle est responsable des finances, des loisirs et de la culture. Et c'est elle qui va présider la consultation aujourd'hui. Alors, aujourd'hui, nous avons 3 objectifs pour notre réunion. Le premier, c'était de vous réunir, les aînés, autour d'un événement informatif avec un conférencier. Le deuxième, c'était d'informer les résidents des avancements que nous avons faits dans notre plan de MADA qui est la municipalité amie des aînés. C'est pour vous présenter les avancements qu'on a faits depuis quelques années, 5 ans, je pense.
Depuis 2020.
Oui. Et puis le troisième, ce qui est probablement très important, un des plus importants, c'est de solliciter votre avis sur les priorités futures en ce qui concerne le plan. Nous avons un programme assez chargé cet après-midi. La présentation et la consultation se déroulent en anglais. Sauf que vous êtes les bienvenus de poser vos questions en français et nous allons les répondre en français.
And actually, thank you for introducing myself, because I forgot to. So yes, I am Colleen Feeney. I am a councillor here in Montreal-Ouest and have been for the past 16 years, and I'm in charge of finance, recreation and culture, and this wonderful seniors portfolio. And that is Danny Holland, and she is one of the members of the Seniors Advisory Committee that you will meet during the course of this afternoon. Okay, and now I would like to present another member of our Seniors Advisory Committee, Barbara Brzezinski, who will actually introduce our speaker. Barbara.
Bonjour, hello everyone. Serge Gauthier, medical doctor, is a clinical neurologist specializing in the development of new tools for diagnosis and treatments for people living with Alzheimer's disease. He is the academic co-lead for the dementia education program and professor emeritus in the Department of Neurology and Neurosurgery and the Department of Psychiatry at McGill University. Dr. Gauthier was the director of the McGill University Research Center for Studies in Aging from 1986 to 1997. His accomplishments led him to being appointed to the Order of Canada in 2014 and the National Order of Quebec in 2017. On a personal note, I was fortunate to hear him speak to all the guides at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, where his wife, Louise, has been a very active guide for the past 20 years. Dr Gauthier's talk will be in English, as you've heard. Si vous avez des questions à poser à la fin de son discours, n'hésitez pas à le faire et le Dr Gauthier vous répondra en français. Thank you. Merci.
Bonjour, merci de votre invitation. Thank you for your invitation and welcome. Retirement, right? I retired 4 years ago and I think I'm more busy. I think it's the case for most people here who are retired. That's healthy. Today I was asked to give a relatively short presentation about how to prevent brain aging, which is exciting. There's indeed a lot of things you can do. Being here is one of them, by the way. There's a publication called the Lancet Report that I'll refer to that you can look up online. I also brought a little booklet that we published, us being Claire Webster, José Moret, and I. It's a booklet that we give people who come to memory clinics. And if they want information about brain aging, what to do after a diagnosis of even mild dementia, what stages to plan for, and there's also half of the booklet for the person living with, the care partner. So it does fit a need around the world. We actually have 15 languages of that booklet available, 15, 1-5. 15. I have grandchildren in Germany, so sometimes I switch. Just back from visiting them this week. So 15 languages, including German, which you can get online for free. So just go on the website for the Dementia Education Program. You can download the language of choice. So I'll just refer to the booklet just once to refer to page 46 for the English one, and 47 for the French one. There's a little bit of a summary of what I'm going to say today, but it's really brief. Today we're going to go more in depth into how to prevent brain aging. Okay? So we'll use some slides as a reference to make it easier. I was asked by Claire to make clear that dementia is not a diagnosis of a disease. It's an umbrella term. It means a change in your brain abilities that interferes with your daily life. Okay? The causes of dementia are multiple. Alzheimer is the best known. It's the most common, especially over age 80. But there are people who have small strokes, multiple strokes, and Alzheimer, it's a mix, or Parkinson-like changes in the brain, so it's called Lewy body disease. Very rare, but dramatic because it's young people in their 60s. It's frontotemporal dementia. Bruce Willis, he had that. Another not shown here is traumatic head injuries. You know those football players and hockey players who get hit on the head quite a few times? It does change the brain, and they get changes that are slightly different from Alzheimer. To make a long story short, we prefer the term now neurocognitive decline, which we all experience as we get older, but we go around it, we put posters, post-its, reminders, and you forgot your password when you know where to find it. You know what it's for. That's normal. Now, if you want to keep it that way, you want to remember what it's for, we're going to go over the protective factors. All right? So that's the context. So risk factors that you cannot control is getting older. So careful what you wish for. You want to live longer? Okay. And we're doing that very well in Canada, thank you. Better than the Americans, actually. Yeah, but age is a risk factor for cognitive decline. But there are people in their 90s who have in their brain the chemical changes that you associate with Alzheimer's, but they have no symptoms. And probably nearly everyone who's over age 100 has in their brain Alzheimer-like changes, but not all of them have dementia. So there are protective factors, resilience factors that we're going to talk about. What can you do to build them over a lifetime? The other thing is we don't know everything that we take about Alzheimer. You hear about these Alzheimer, these amyloid drugs, amyloid plaque busters that you get injections for. They just fix one of the small problems in the big picture of Alzheimer's disease. There's other changes in the brain which we cannot yet control. The tau changes, the tau is a protein within the nerve cells that is also changing with age. There's small strokes is a component. Inflammation is also there. So this is a topic for another day, but I'll come back when we have new medications for prevention in high-risk people and treatment for people who have mild symptoms. Wait 2 years, we're going to be there. It's going to be like cancer. We're going to see your biologic profile. Are you more of an amyloid kind of guy, or a tau kind of person, or inflammation kind of person? We'll know from sort of a biologic profile from your spinal fluid, hopefully from the blood as well. We're working on that. That's a specialty of the house here at McGill. Blood tests that show what's going on in your brain. Topic for another day. Stay tuned. So age, we can live with that. You know that before the pandemic, there were less people with dementia than expected in Ontario. Yeah, because they had a campaign against stroke. They were very aggressively treating TIAs as hard as if it was a heart attack. And it was paying off. There were less people than expected in Ontario until the pandemic. I don't know, since then we have to change all our numbers. But yeah, it was paying off. Also parts of England and parts of Scandinavia, less people than expected had dementia because of age. So something was working. Stroke prevention, what's good for the heart is good for the brain. Okay, remember that. If you only remember that, it was worth coming. It's good for the heart, it's good for the brain. Now, sex. Not that kind of sex. It means, are you a woman or a man? Women are more at risk. We're not sure why. It's not because men die younger. Or women live longer. It's not sufficient as an explanation. It's not just because women have menopause, also men have andropause. No, it's not enough. There's something we don't yet understand fully, but there's a whole bunch of research going on about that. And special grants to explain why women or female animals in general, because you can also do that with animal research, are more at risk of cognitive decline with age. There are exceptions. Parkinson is more common in men worldwide, and Parkinson-related dementia would be also then more common in men. Lewy body is probably equal, men and women. Alzheimer's is really more women than men. Okay. Genetics, that's also important to clarify. Because if you're worried about your mother having Alzheimer's when she was 90, I hope you're no longer worried after you leave. Just age is an explanation. Now, if you say, well, both my mother and my mother-in-law and 3 people in the family had dementia over age 90. Yeah, lucky you, they lived that long. Lucky you. It's just age as a factor. But if you tell me your mother had Alzheimer's at 65, it's a different story. So there was possibly a gene involved that increased the risk that does not cause the disease. So that's one of the discoveries made in Montreal, and this gene is called APOE4, APO, short, 4. Everybody has 2 copies. The average person has number 3. Some people 2 and 3. Some people 4 and 3. Some people 4 and 4. That's the bad mix. So if you have double 4, that's 3% of the population outside Japan. Japan doesn't have that for some reason. You're more at risk of having Alzheimer's around age 70, just as a basic risk. Double 4, 3% of the population, not common. If we have 3 and 4, so you have one of the 4s, that's 15% of the population, 15% of the population. That's common. So you do also have an increased risk of having Alzheimer's around age 75, but the protective factors we're going to discuss today offset that risk. Is that clear? It's a nice finding. It's been clearly shown, multiple countries, multiple publications, that if you have that one copy of the gene that increases your risk, having a good lifestyle and you control the risk factors, you offset that genetic risk. The double four is a kind of special population. That's a topic for another day because it's a special medicine we're testing with them. The medicine discovered in Montreal 20 years ago. So we had reports last week in Vienna that it was partly effective, but very early in the course of Alzheimer's. So we'll talk about that again, possibly next year. That special group of 3% of the population. Then there's a very rare gene that you inherit at birth that causes Alzheimer's, and that would be around age 35, 40 that you get symptoms. These are the kind of people we see on TV like de Montigny, Madame de Montigny. She's an example of a woman from that kind of family. They're very rare. We know of about 20 families in Quebec. And at McGill we have a special network to find them. And there's a special research program to prevent symptoms. You're born with Alzheimer's kind of thing. So the grandchildren are now on treatment, age 19, 20, 21. They get amyloid specific medicines. And we're glad we can give them hope. But that's very rare. That's like 1% of people with Alzheimer's in the world that have these genetic driven early onset familial Alzheimer's. Okay. So I'll say no more about that today, but if you know someone who is from such a family, they're likely to be 20 to 40 at risk, maybe a gene carrier, they know, or it's genetic testing. If they have symptoms, they're kind of 40, 45, they may be enrolled now in those treatments that we have running. So that's it for the genetics. Do you have a question about that for now? Okay. So to summarize, old relatives, it's just age. It's not genetic. 70-ish could be one gene, the ApoE4. If you happen to have one copy, we can live with it. There's things you can do in your lifestyle to offset that. And if you're a 20-year-old, your mother had Alzheimer's at 40, you come and see us. We have a special program for it. Well, this is the main topic today. So what's that? It's a summary of what's been published last summer. What it says is these are the factors that increase risk of brain aging and dementia that are modifiable. And they were broken down into those that are more common early life, before age 40, midlife, that's 40 to 65, and then over 65, so-called late life. It doesn't mean you should work on these factors only when you're old or only when you're young. It's just they're more important at a certain stage in your life. So, first one is obvious, stay in school. Okay? So that's been shown quite some time ago that countries that have high schooling like Canada, there's a relative protection against dementia. In other words, if you learn Latin and Greek like I did, sounds like, hello, or whatever now the kids learn in school, it does change your brain for the better. You have more connections, education, especially up to grade kind of 11. You remember the poems you learned when you were in grade 7 and 8? Yeah, okay. You're wired. But if you try to learn another language when you're 65, like German, good luck. I learned it, found out. So, kids should stay in school, especially the boys. That's an issue, yeah. And the longer the better. But there's a kind of plateau. It doesn't mean, it's not because you have a university degree that you're necessarily going to live longer or better. You know that. So we're talking about population at large. Schooling, minimum 16 years minimum, age 16, good. And longer is better, but let's make sure everybody gets, the boys get 16 in school. Okay, next midlife. So the numbers refer to how common the problem is and how important it would be if you fix it. So hearing impairment, surprise, it's one of the highest modifiable risk factors because it's common and it's fixable. Just wearing a hearing aid. And I think Quebec pays for one hearing aid. One, eh? Makes no sense anyway. 2 years, eh? So why would hearing impairment increase the risk of cognitive decline and dementia?
So Socialization.
It's mostly decrease of social interaction. You cannot interact with people as well because you didn't hear what they said, and then you're shy to be with other people, and then you start to speak loud and to get people pull away and this and that. But it's fixable. So practically speaking, it means if you think your hearing is decreasing, just get it tested. And if you need a hearing aid, well, just wear it. It does make a difference for that purpose. What else? High cholesterol. Hello. You sort of knew that, eh? So if you need a cholesterol pill, just take it until age 85. Then you don't need it anymore. It's not forever. Depression. That's a touchy topic because depression could mean different things. Eh? It could be an early symptom of dementia. So if you have a 65-year-old who now has depression not explainable by a change in the family or losing something out of the blue, this person should be treated for the depression, but also checked for memory, because that person is at higher risk of decline within the following 5 years. That's been well known. It could be an early symptom. What about people who have recurrent depressions at 30, 40, 50? Unipolar, I think it's called now? They may be slightly more at risk of dementia, but we're not sure why. How about bipolar people? They may have a change in their condition later, but we cannot call it Alzheimer's unless you have a test specific for Alzheimer's. So all this to say, depression is a modifiable risk factor. What we can do is just treat it well. And if we have what you call brain health clinics eventually, which we should try around here, because we have the will of the people and retired nurses like Margaret and others who could help. It could be run by non-specialists, just a checklist of the risk factors and how we can deal with them. So depression could be considered one of the risk factors we would pick up on the checklist, and then maybe we fix that with some kind of social engagement and whatever. Treat the depression well, whatever age it occurs, but especially over age 65. I think that's as far as we can go with that. Traumatic brain injury. You heard about that, right? Hockey players, football players. It's in the news sometimes because they sue the league. Yeah, it's for real. Recurrent head injuries, they have lasting effects on the brain structure. It seems to affect the tau protein within the nerve cells. Tau protein I mentioned already, it's one of the proteins that tend to sort of twist on itself with age, and that's why we have a delay to remember names, but we think okay, you make an association and it comes back. That's normal. But it's tau protein in the memory part of the brain, the hippocampus. Imagine having head injuries, so that's tau protein everywhere. And then you get what you read about in the lay press. These sometimes 40, 50-year-old men, mostly men, isn't it, so far? Yeah, they're not sharp and they may not be able to function. So there's a specific research program going on, especially in the US right now for traumatic brain injury. Practically speaking, it means put a casque, a helmet. If you ride a bicycle in Montréal-Ouest, or certainly on Saint-Urbain Street. The young people who are in school should wear a helmet. I know some sports like soccer, there's no helmet, but they should avoid direct head injuries, maybe no hitting the ball with the heads as much. So, see what I mean? It's something as a culture we need to work on. But I'm a bit concerned about the young kids in school with pee-wee hockey. Yeah. Football. Yes.
Rugby.
So that's something we can work on. So physical inactivity. That's pretty major in North America compared to other countries. And I worry now about the grandchildren with their iPads and iPhones compared to us, because we have been, as baby boomers, more physically active. But it's shifting. So there's a generation effect happening. I think you know that baby boomers right now are healthier than their parents, and we will live probably 5 years longer than our parents. And it's because we've been lucky, we've been in school longer, we've had work more regularly, we eat better, we don't smoke as much, we drink moderately. We'll come back to drinking in a minute. So make sure it's a good wine if you have only one glass a day. That's going to be the message. So physical inactivity, there's been a lot of research. Montreal actually is known for that. Louis Béraire at the Institut de Cardiologie de Montréal is one of the world leaders on how much physical activity you need. The message is not that much. You just need 20 minutes, 3 times a week of walking fast enough to sweat. Okay? If it's your dog, like mine, I don't sweat. So 20 minutes walking fast enough to sweat, or anything you like. It doesn't have to be swimming or push-ups, okay? But get up. Walking here is better than using the car, right? If you can. That's the idea. Lack of physical activity has other impact, like more likely to get diabetes and cholesterol issue. It's often mixed. It's a combination of risk factors. So now I'm getting into the heart and stroke kind of risk factors. They kind of overlap. One last word about physical activity. It's been shown that you have a better protection effect against brain aging if you exercise and you do it with other people. And you do it with some kind of brain cognitive activity. So in a research setting like the Institut de Cardiologie or in a research setting, you can have a memory training program combined with the physical activity. The two together are better than either one alone. That's the thing. It's better to do 2 things. So it's nice to read, but it's better if you're in a book club because you interact with other people and you walk to the library. So multimodal. That's another message. Don't do just one thing. It's like food. Don't eat just one food. Like green tea, there was a fad. Green tea is protected. No, only in Japan. It also depends on the culture and the physical and so on. But also you need to mix foods and drinks and people. So diabetes, not much to say. Diabetes has been called Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's has been called diabetes type 3. No, don't go there. Don't use that expression. It's misleading. But indeed, there are subtle changes in the blood vessels associated with diabetes. You know about that for the kidneys and the complications like neuropathy and so on, and the eyes. But in the brain also diabetes does something. And we're all crossing our fingers that the testing of the new diabetic drugs, the one that makes you lose weight, I will not name it, can also be useful in Alzheimer's. Results next year. Okay? Yeah. Smoking, no argument. Bad for many things, including brain aging. So no need to argue that. High blood pressure, that's an important one. It was the first one to be brought out by research actually in Paris. And nobody dares anymore to have a study where you have people with high blood pressure, half of them are treated, half are not. Hello? No, you can do that, it's not difficult. But you can treat the blood pressure aggressively or reasonably and compare. And I would say it depends on how old you are. I would not treat blood pressure aggressively over age 85 because you're more likely to have drop in blood pressure and fall. So careful about that. High blood pressure is different when you're 40, 45 versus 85. To the point where people over age 85, we take away the blood pressure pills progressively, as well as the sleeping pills and the cholesterol pills. Actually, if you see a geriatrician, you're going to leave the office with practically nothing. It's a systematic search of all the pills you took forever and you don't need. Okay. So hypertension, important, especially midlife. Seriously, guys, it's 40 to 60, critical age window. If you don't treat your high blood pressure, you're likely to get small strokes or a big one or a heart attack. Often people with high blood pressure also have a touch of diabetes, a touch of high cholesterol. So we need to treat all 3 factors at the same time to get the maximum protective effect. Make sense? Yeah. But that could mean you take 3 pills a day. But not forever. Obesity, It goes with the lack of physical activity, it goes with diabetes, it goes with other risk factors for the heart mostly. Excessive alcohol, that's a debate. Here, what is it in Montréal-Ouest? 1 glass a day? Make sure it's a good one? Yeah, good. 1 glass a day.
Well, the curling club would tell you something different.
I know, I've been there. 2 glasses to the game. But on average, try to stick to 1 glass a day, something good, preferably. I mean, if it's 1 glass, make sure it's worth it. It won't be an American wine. Social, now we're in late life. Unfortunately, the COVID experience showed us that social isolation is deadly, especially if you already have cognitive impairment. But it's also important as just strategy, especially when you retire and you're cut off, especially men who don't have maybe the réseau that the women have for friends. Yeah, so guys, stick with your wife. By the way, it's not listed yet here, but living with a woman is protective from men. It's not listed yet, but everybody knows that. Take your pills, dear. You had enough to drink, dear. I don't think it's protective for women to live with a guy. Air pollution, that's a new one. Surprise, surprise. Think of countries like even India, the #1 right now, China. Unfortunately, parts of England, you can't go outside, there's smog. Yeah, so there's some credible interaction with your general health, but also it goes into the cognition. And that could be young people, especially those who have already the respiratory issues. So air pollution is another modifiable factor, and visual impairment. If you have cataracts, guys, get it done. Maybe the 2 at the same time, it's more efficient. I did it. Yeah, it's been shown already. Cataracts, surgery, you improve your cognition. Because you see, I don't need work glasses anymore. I was myopic all my life. But it's harder to read now. It fixed my myopia, but I need glasses to read more than before. So, yeah, visual impairment. So it's common, it's fixable. Cataract is the best example. Unfortunately, you cannot fix macular degeneration unless you have special treatments and diabetic retinopathy. There are things, of course, that cannot be modified. But one thing I think that is modifiable is other cataracts. So guess what? If you fix these things that you may have personally, 45% reduction of risk. There'll be more in 2 years or so. The one we're looking at is gum hygiene. Lots of bugs from your gums into your body, chronic inflammation. Some of the bugs may go into your brain. So gum hygiene may be a risk factor, well, not the hygiene, but lack of hygiene may be an issue. And there was another one, is sleep impairment, which unfortunately is probably half the people here. Yeah, so if you have sleep apnea, wear your mask. If you know someone who snores and stops breathing, instead of just kicking them with an elbow, just get them tested for sleep apnea. You can die in your sleep, which is not a bad way to go, but it's a risk factor for cognitive impairment. So watch this one, sleep impairment and lack of good hygiene. Two additional, I would predict, in 2 years. So that's what's new. Here we have the details. I'm not sure if I missed anything here. Education, hearing. I should have gone through that with you, so I got excited. Take your pills if you need them until 85. Depression. Yeah, see 2.2 fold the risk increase of dementia, but treat the depression if it occurs. Head injury we talked about, so health policy, physical inactivity. See, everybody's very fit here, so the person who fixed this computer for me, she wrote a bike from Ville La Salle.
With the helmet.
Pills, guys. Lose weight. Alcohol, we argued, 1 glass, okay. Some people are extreme. They say you should stop completely. I mean, come on. Okay, so what does it mean? Yeah, if we follow this advice, which is common sense, not expensive, you just need maybe to join a book club. Actually, it's cost saving. And less people as a society having dementia, hey, we save money as a society. Okay? You may get your symptoms 5 years later, but it's fine. I mean, you're going to die anyway, right? Ideally, you should delay symptoms until you're 100, and then you go in the lake. You go on the mountain. That's what they do in Japan, yeah? On the snow. So, as a society, that's the strategy. It's not pills. There won't be a magic pill to take away Alzheimer's. Let's be honest. It's as a society, we modify the risk factors. And together, we reduce the risk, less people with dementia, and we take better care of those who have symptoms. That's it. What's good for the heart is good for the brain.
Yes.
Not just the blood pressure, also the heart. Being with people like you. Okay, thank you.